We good? Okay, I'd like to call to order this meeting on June 3rd of the Town Tree Board, and we'll do a quick roll call. We'll start with Ken.
And Rasmussen here. Jay Barry.
Sue Alexander.
Kathleen Baralt.
Gordon Matheson.
We have a quorum. So if we could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Flag of the United States. It stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, can I get a motion to approve the agenda for this evening?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Approved. Is there any public comment on any item on the agenda? And this is not on your case, it's just, are you good with the agenda that your case is coming up? And that's all we need, a yes or no. Okay, we're good on that. Public approval of the minutes from the May 12th tree board hearing. I could get a motion?
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Minutes approved. All right, the mission statement of our board. The tree board is an advisory committee authorized by Chesapeake Beach Ordinance, Chapter 263, Urban Forest. The mission is to promote, protect, preserve the urban forest and tree canopy of Chesapeake Beach. This ecosystem increases property values, reduces utility costs for individual homeowners, increases commercial revenues through increased tourism, reduces air, noise, and visual pollution in town, and it overall improves the community's quality of life by having a natural environment in which to live. The job of the board is to review the tree removal permits, determine the merits of this removal, and make recommendations to the town for trees worthy of preservation and mitigation requirements on removal of trees. It is our desire to make this a win-win situation for the property owners and the town, and we will work with property owners to make that happen. All right. First case up, Mr. Collins, 8179 Harrison Boulevard. We started the conversation on this last homeowners meeting. We needed a tree board meeting. I'm sorry. I'm on too many committees. Which committee am I doing? I've been up and looked at the property. We got additional information, clarifying information from the town about the trees. There was comment made in the town planner's report about the tree being the only front yard tree on the street. She clarified that she was only looking from a satellite picture. I have driven up there and there's a number of trees in front yards up there. So this is not an unusual situation.
Yeah.
We also got further pictures from the property owner about the root system and how it's starting to encroach on the foundation and the driveway of the property. So I will go through Sarah's report briefly, Sarah being the town planner. On May 18th, the town received a request to remove one maple tree at 8179 Harrison Boulevard. The application stated that the tree is growing too mature for the space and the roots are encroaching on the house and walkway. The photograph provided does not support this statement, but the homeowner submitted further photos for this. Chapter 263 of the town code exists to protect the urban forest. This tree is protected by this ordinance and is required to have a permit. In considering approving this request for a permit, the following standards need to be considered, and I'm only going to address those standards where there are comments from the planner. Some are just simply not applicable to this situation. The tree is not dead or dying. The tree and its roots are encroaching or could cause damage to the town infrastructure, not applicable. The overall health of the tree is healthy. Potential hazards, desirability, age, or outstanding quality, uniqueness. The degree of hardship suffered by the landowner. The applicant states that the tree is growing too mature for the space and the roots are encroaching on the house and walkway, which were confirmed by at least one of the pictures that were subsequently submitted to the town. The extent to which the area will be subject to environmental degradation due to removal of the trees. The street canopy does reduce the heat in these areas in proximity to the asphalt. So the sense from the town planners that taking out this tree would increase heat from the asphalt, and therefore this particular provision of the ordinance would apply. Extent of the tree canopy in the immediate area. The town planner said there's substantial, oh, she's adjusted this. Okay, there is substantial tree canopy in the general area of the home. The applicable town zoning, county, state law. This parcel is not located in the critical area. The removal of one tree is not regulated by the town's forest conservation regulations. It is covered by the ordinance 263, urban forest. The town planner states that removal of this tree is not recommended. If the permit for tree removal is granted, it is recommended that the tree be replaced by either one tree from the medium large tree, or 3 trees from the small tree list. This will ensure that the tree canopy is replaced. All right, I will start. I have been up to the property and I have a little bit of heartburn over this one because the tree is healthy and it's beautiful. But that said, in looking at the neighborhood and looking at the positioning of this tree in the yard, it's definitely starting to impact the house. The branches are over the roof. They're brushing up against the windows. I'm not sure about pruning, if that would answer that side of the problem, but the pictures submitted, and when I walked up on the property, you could see where the root system is tearing up the front yard, which near the tree is understandable, but it is also getting to the foundation of the driveway. And I didn't walk on the lawn, but I assume because of where the tree's located, that it's also hitting the foundation of the house. So I can see where, if we didn't approve the permit now, we'd be back here probably in a year looking at this, because it definitely would be impacting that. The other thing I noticed is that there are a number of trees in the backyard. There are a few trees and bushes on the side of the house. And the tree itself is really huge for the small front yard that they have. So my thought is, and I'm throwing this out for discussion, we approve the permit with the recommendation that, following Sarah's recommendation, that 1 large or 3 small trees be planted somewhere appropriately on the property away from the house to replace this canopy. My thoughts. Any other comments? Does anybody have any questions for the property owner who's here tonight?
I do. Good evening. Who is the?
Oh, Mr. Collins, if you'd like to step forward, please. And if you could state for the record your name and where you live.
Darrell Collins, 8179 Harrison Boulevard, Chesapeake Beach.
Thank you. Have you ever done any maintenance on this tree?
Yes,
How long have you lived at the property?
I've been in the property since 1999.
Okay, and when was the maintenance done on
The
the tree?
maintenance was done about 3 or 4 years ago. Some pruning, as Ms. Alexander stated.
Did you plant this tree?
No, the tree was planted there when we moved in,
And you've lived there since
99.
Okay. I don't have any further questions. Thank you.
I don't have any questions, but I went by the property also and agree with what you're saying. The tree is basically taking the house over.
Yeah.
And this is not the only tree in that neighborhood that this is happening to. So I expect we're going to get some more requests to deal with this similarly. And I think, I agree with your
The front yard is
recommendation.
just too small for a tree that
Right.
large.
It's just, I assume this was planted by the developer. Yeah, and so, that was 25 years ago.
Questions?
Slope stability isn't an issue at all.
Nope.
It's virtually flat.
Yeah. We good?
Problem with your recommendation?
Okay, so my recommendation is that we approve.
Chair?
Go ahead.
I disagree with your recommendation in the regards that I see that the tree is large. On the side profile of the tree showing, I don't think it is over encompassing the house. I think it is now touching the house, but I do believe, I also went by the property, and I think that substantially, if there was some pruning done, I think that would eliminate the branches touching the house. I'm just not in favor of removing the tree. I agree, it is a large tree, but I do think that I believe it's probably at full maturity and it's not gonna necessarily grow that much further. And I think if there was some pruning to reduce it back, the size of it, I think that would be advantageous.
What about the root system?
I do see that the roots, but they're also,
I know that roots will come up in the front yard. If it was just the yard itself, I definitely could see your point, because I do think this is a beautiful tree and I hate to take it down. But where they've shown evidence that the roots are getting to the driveway, and I gotta believe that's only gonna get worse, I think.
well, I guess that was my point. If the tree is at maturity, are the roots gonna expand that much further? Is my thought.
Yeah.
And you are?
Sorry,
Yeah, can you please come to the podium?
Yeah.
Identify yourself.
I'm Ryan from Spencer's Tree Service from Annapolis. A couple of times I've been here now. The roots will continue to grow, and I do believe the tree could get larger, and he's pruned it at least once. I mean, at this point, it's not only about the size, the maturity, the encroachment of the roots, but I mean, it just doesn't even look good in his front yard anymore, in my opinion.
Right.
So
Are you an arborist?
I work for a tree service, and I'm trained in arbor society. So
But you're not an
not a
arborist.
certified arborist per se.
I see. Okay.
So, that's all.
Right? Any other comments?
So, and I can see it, right? We planted a tree at one day and it was this tall and it's kind of grown into its footprint. But do you plan on putting another tree in the front, or what was your intentions? If
The
you,
intent was to remove the tree. Right now, the main concern, other than the growth, was the property damage factor to possibly any storms. For instance, there's a tree that bordered if you face the house on the left side, if you've been out there recently, that tree is no longer there. And as the tree itself landed on half of the street, the wife and I spent the next morning cleaning that up so at least traffic could go back and forth. And the driveway was covered. And fortunately, at that incident, my car was not in the driveway, or it would have been damaged. So that's one concern we have with that tree, with the size, that if you get the right storm, it's going to damage the house and or my vehicles in the driveway.
Was it the same variety of tree?
Say again?
Was that tree that came down the same variety and the same age as your tree? Are they comparable?
I know the prior neighbors planted that tree probably a year or so after we moved in. So you're saying probably in 2001. It wasn't a maple, but just the fact that it got blown over by one of these recent storms was enough to let me know that that's another reason why we like to have this tree removed.
I think the most compelling thing is the structural issue with the walkway. For
Yeah.
me, I'm with Kathleen in terms of the quality of the tree, that a new tree isn't going to match the qualities that this gives the property and the canopy. But when it comes to structural damage, I tend to err on the side of preventative anticipation of more damage. I guess I would have to agree with.
Yeah, I also agree with what you're saying. I think you could probably prune the tree,
Mhm.
but I think a year from now or 2 years from now, we'll just be back here again, because the tree is not going to stop growing. Right? I mean, and the branches will continue to go out and they're going to continue to reach out, and it'll end up, it's already partially on the house. And there's nothing good that happens with trees that are in contact with the homes.
Any other comments or anything? I'm gonna make the recommendation. My recommendation is that we approve the removal with the contingent requirement that at least one other large tree or 3 small trees be planted somewhere on your property in a better location that won't impede your house. I would also recommend that this be done within our 6-month timeframe, which we have sort of made as our timeline for these replacements. And if it is not done within 6 months, then there will be a $1,000 fine implemented. That will ensure that the tree gets replanted. And can I get a motion to approve that recommendation?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Question.
Yes, sir.
Just on observation in the neighborhood, neighbors whose trees, again, most of the houses in that neighborhood had a tree planted. And over the years, storm damage have removed those trees. And I have not seen anybody replant a tree. So I'm concerned about that particular stipulation, that if I remove this tree, we have to replace with another one. And then I feel like I'm gonna be back at the same place if that tree happens to overgrow.
We
as well.
have a new ordinance in town. Well, not new, it's 2 years old. So if they took down trees prior to this ordinance,
Due to storm damage,
yeah, this was not in place at that time. So this requirement has only been in place for 2 years.
Also
No.
a tree city. as
Huh?
well. We're also a tree city now,
Tree
which
City
we didn't
now,
have
which
that
we did not
designation.
have before, which is what's driving a lot of this. So we're trying to protect our town's canopy. So it is a new requirement. You will see that in the last 2 years in all of our decisions, we have been requiring this of homeowners in town. Maybe not in your neighborhood because it happened before, or if it was a certain size tree, it doesn't come before this board. If it's a smaller tree, there's not the same requirement. But when we have a big tree like yours, we now have this requirement. The requirement will not be that you have to place it in that same location.
Understood.
You have a big property. And we have a list, the town has a list, which they will send you, of a big variety of trees to choose from. So working with Ryan, you can decide on a tree that would be appropriate for your yard. So it wouldn't necessarily put you right back where you are. But I would also just kind of add to that, to hopefully add to your comfort level, is that it would take a really long time for a tree to get back to the size that you have in your front yard. So, yeah. So hopefully that will give you a level of comfort. But
Thank you for that
on the town
clarification.
side, we're trying to protect our canopies. So that's why we have this requirement now.
I also,
It is new, so.
it's also a town ordinance from planning and zoning, and it's
Right.
been signed off by the council, so
Right.
that you
Yeah.
have to replace one for
One
one.
for one.
And in this instance, the 3 small trees. So
You will be given a choice of 1 large tree or 3 small trees, and this will be the list that will be sent to you. So you'll be able to, and you can work with Ryan on picking what works for your property,
Thank you.
okay? I had a vote and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Do we
I,
know where
Aye.
we stand right now?
Aye.
Okay. Okay. Motion approved, permit approved with contingency. I will send a report, our recommendation to Sharon. The town will issue the formal statement. And the 6-month timeline will kick in once you've officially received that letter. It doesn't start tonight. It'll start when you get that letter. Fine. All right. Next up is Mr. Almany. All right. This is 8326 Harrison Boulevard.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, for the record, just please state your name and address.
My name is Bobby Omni. I am the homeowner of 8326 Harrison Boulevard, Chesapeake Beach, Maryland.
We have the application, the permit here, and I have the Town Planning and Zoning Administrator's report. On May 16th, the town received a request to remove 1 tree at 8326 Harrison Boulevard. The application stated that the tree was leaning towards the house and pool. Applicant had just moved in a few days before removal and immediately stopped cutting of the tree when the town contacted them to make them aware of the regulation. The tree had been 90% removed at the time. Chapter 263 of the Town Code exists to protect the urban forest. This tree is protected by this ordinance due to the size and location of the tree. The removal of this tree constitutes a municipal infraction under 2638A of the Urban Forest Ordinance. The table below shows the fine associated with the municipal infraction. According to the ordinance, it's $300 per tree. Because the circumference is greater than 50 inches, the fine is per inch would get us to $22,600, but the maximum allowed under the municipal infraction schedule is only $1,000. The municipal infraction, any of the following shall constitute a municipal infraction for which a citation may be issued. Doing any of the acts prohibited under 263-4 without a written permit. Any noncompliance with terms of an issued permit, including conditions regarding removal and replanting of trees. The fine, we stated the fine for failing to comply with the terms of the permit or failure to replace a tree if the tree was removed without a permit shall be $300 per tree plus $50 per inch in excess of 50 inches to a maximum of $1,000. In the event the tree has been removed so that no accurate measurements can be taken to assess the fine, it shall not exceed $1,000. But I do believe we got measurements on that, right? Did we not? Okay. Going through the different applications of the standards, the tree did not appear to be dead or dying. It was just leaning. The applicant states that the tree was leaning toward the house and showed evidence of potential danger to the house. The overall health of the tree appeared to be healthy. The extent to which the area will be subject to environmental degradation due to the removal of the tree. There are other trees in the area to mitigate the impacts. The extent of the tree canopy in the immediate area. There is other tree canopy in the immediate area. This lot is not located in the critical area. The removal of one tree is not regulated by the town's forest conservation regulations. Just to clarify this, and I should have said it earlier, there are two different ordinances that apply to our town. One is just our general tree ordinance, urban forest ordinance. The other is the county's critical zone area. So if you fall into the critical zone, there are different requirements than just the plain tree urban forest ordinance.
Understood.
It is recommended that the tree be placed with one medium to large tree listed below. And that is, at this point, the tree is down, so we're not discussing whether it's coming down or not. So I drove by the property. There is definitely lots of other trees. It did not appear to be on a slope. It appeared to be in just a flat forested area. The pictures indicated the tree was leaning towards the house, the pool area. So I can see that. The other thing I would like to comment on this is when someone brought it to the town's attention, the homeowner, property owner did comply immediately, stopped work, and filed for the permit, which I think is a point in his favor that he was cooperative. And while we don't say, oh, sorry, I didn't know about the ordinance, you're supposed to know about the ordinance. But you showed up, once you were informed of it, you showed a cooperative spirit towards doing this. My sense in all of this, or my comment would be that I would recommend the base fine of $300 for not having the permit to remove the tree, that we recommend a replacement of the one large or 3 small trees based on the town ordinance in our list. And that if this is not completed within 6 months, we do our $1,000 fine recommended by the ordinance for taking down the tree. Comments, questions?
What kind of tree was this?
I'm not really sure, sir. I'm pretty sure it was an oak tree, but the diameter was 105 inches. I'm pretty sure you guys took pictures of that. I just want to say, though, that I'm really sorry for everything. I was actually extremely embarrassed after getting the call from Fran on Thursday, the 15th, the day before the big storm. So I just want to say it may have been a blessing in disguise in a way. You know, of course, I want to follow all the rules and follow all the procedures, but it could have potentially hit my house. The way the tree was leaning, I had an adjacent tree that was very similar in diameter that the top half snapped and hit my neighbor's fence. So again, I feel like I had to jump. But again, this was a huge learning experience for me, and this will never happen again. Believe me.
We saw your letter to us, so we appreciate that. But that the The ordinance has been in place for 2 years, and we've gotten to the point where we gave people kind of a 6-month grace period of saying, I didn't know, but now it's in place and it's advertised. But that
Yes.
said,
And I'm a new
You- you're-
homeowner and
Yeah.
it's my first house, so I'm learning. I'm sorry.
That's
I really
okay.
am.
That said, as I said, you showed a cooperative spirit. You stopped with the removal of the tree when it was brought to your attention. And so I want to give you some credit for that because we don't always get that cooperation from.
Thank you so much.
So that is my recommendation. The tree's gone, so there's nothing to decide about whether it's coming down or not. So I would like to say the $300 minimum plus replacement of the tree, and if that does not get completed, then we hit them with a $1,000 fine. Does anybody object or have any other consideration?
I just want to speak to the, Mr. Alimony, how long had you lived at the residence before you took the tree down?
So my settlement date was May 5th and the tree was taken down May 15th.
Okay, okay. Well, no pun intended, you fell on the tree. So I appreciate your, your thought and your expression of wanting to do the right thing and you didn't know. And, we certainly have been fighting this fight for, especially since we've been a tree city, that people have been asking forgiveness instead of permission. So it's understandable. But no, I agree with you, Madam Chair, as far as the recommendation. You do seem rightfully recalcitrant, and I think the $300 fine, I would support
That is
that.
consistent with decisions we've made in the past for trees that have come down without a permit where the homeowner owned.
So I'll make the motion that you just made.
Okay, second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we will make the recommendation that there be a $300 minimum fine for the one tree for not getting the permit. 6 months to replace the tree with either one large or 3 small. If you don't know much about the trees in the area, Spence is a good tree service to just, the gentleman that was here earlier, there's Spence, there's Bartlett, there's a number of tree services that can maybe help you. We also have an arborist, a town arborist.
Yeah.
And
That might help
And I'll
you.
get a tree list as well.
You will get a tree
Yeah.
list,
Okay.
but they can maybe make recommendations for the appropriate tree in your yard to replace it with that would work in your space.
Okay.
So it's a recommendation we make. You don't have to, it's not going to be a requirement, but we
Yeah.
do recommend that. So you don't end up in the same situation where you've put in a tree and it's going to get knocked over in a storm or something or isn't appropriate for the area.
Also, one more thing, the $350 fine. So I believe I already paid that. I went into the town hall and paid it with Fran. I paid $100 permit, $150 tree permit fee, and then $300 after permit fee, or $350.
Fran just texted me and said he already paid $300, so.
but I think that's the after the fact permit charge, period.
Oh, that is separate.
That's what
I believe so. We'll follow up on that. That's a standard and after the fact permit, the way I understand it is $300 regardless of this board. So that's an upfront fee that we don't even decide on. I'm gonna need to follow up on that because I don't understand what the original 150 would have been.
The tree permit itself.
But I thought you didn't get a permit.
You got it
After the fact.
after the fact. The tree was down. You did get an after the fact. But I do think we have to clarify those amounts. We will figure that out.
Okay, thank you so much.
The way we understand it, and again, I'll clarify just for your edification, there is a fee for getting the permit, just for getting the permit. If you get the permit after the fact, there's a different fee.
Got
And there might be an overlap of what fees all are. If there's been a 100 and a 300 already charged, we will take that into consideration. And, our fee is the fine we're charging is for not complying with the ordinance. It doesn't have to do with the permit. It's taking down a tree.
Completely understand.
So we'll make sure we get that figured out and we'll explain it to you when we send you the letter. All right, That's it. You're done.
Easy.
Do you one last thing, do you understand the 6-month window? And the reason we do that is obviously in the middle of the summer is not the best time to plant a tree. You can check with whoever you may have do it, or we will come back and check later, but it doesn't have to be a tree arborist, but you want to get more into the fall because we're kind of in the heat of the summer now. Just want to make sure you knew that.
And, oh, I had a big tree. I had one big tree, right? I'm assuming I could do 3 smaller trees. However, it
We-
ratios.
That will be sent out, and it has a list of large trees, and you can select one of those or small trees.
Got it.
That'll, I think it's a 20-foot versus anything larger than 20 foot. But we would ask you to pick 3 of that list or one of the other. But
Yeah.
it will be clear in the letter that you get from the
Yeah,
town.
it's
Well-
broken down by small trees, large
Large
trees,
trees.
and you could plant the
Decide.
3 smaller ones or the one
Yeah.
large. I mean, there's plenty of trees back there already, so you might decide just to do 1 large tree
Okay.
back there, but
That's a decision you can make.
Got it.
Okay,
All right. Is that all?
thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
And just so you know, as a new homeowner, the town does have other permit requirements for other work you do on your house. So
Yeah.
if you're going to do anything big to your house, check with the town
Trust
first.
me.
We ask you to do that. First time homeowner, we understand that. All right. Last case. 402 11th Street. We have the permit. The town report. This is removal of 3 trees. 1 is already down and 2 need to come down. All right. May 28th, the town received a request to remove 3 trees at 4024 11th Street. There's 1 cherry tree that has already been removed. 2 poplar trees have not been removed. The application stated that one of the trees was struck by lightning and they are in poor health overall. These trees have been impacted by the vines that have been allowed to grow on the trunks and undermine overall tree health. All 3 are over the 50-inch circumference and therefore are protected by this ordinance. The removal of the cherry tree constitutes a municipal infraction under 263-8A. The fines, according to the ordinance, are $300 minimum per tree plus a fee in addition for every inch over 50 inches, which got us to 2,600 but the maximum per the ordinance is $1,000. Failure to comply with getting a permit. In considering approving this request for an after-the-fact permit, the following standards need to be considered. The applicant states that the trees are in poor health and that 1 was struck by lightning. The trees constitute a hazard to the safety of persons or properties because of their location and because they are in poor health. And we repeat that, the overall health of the tree we talked about, the extent to which the area would be subject to environmental degradation due to the removal. If the stumps and root networks are removed before new trees have a chance to grow in the space, there could be impacts to the slope in the area. The extent of the tree canopy in the immediate area. This tree canopy, there is tree canopy in general area. However, these 3 trees are a significant loss to the canopy and should be replaced with similar trees. The applicable town zoning. This lot is located in the critical area. Mitigation requires that the trees be replaced 1 for 1, and the one of the trees is not under the critical area and therefore does not fall under the forest conservation regulations. Recommendation, it is recommended that these trees be replaced with 3 medium to large trees from the approved list. The permit should require that the applicant clear the area around the new trees of vines and protect and keep them clear of vines. Additional mitigation with regard to the critical area is required, and the permit should indicate that the stumps be cut close to the ground and the root networks left intact to minimize impact to slopes. It is further recommended that the tree board require the removal of invasive vines from all other trees on the property. All right. I made an attempt to get to your house, but that street is pretty narrow, pretty hilly. So I looked at the area in general over the top of your neighborhood, but I did look at your pictures. These trees were vine covered. They're very large, but they are on a slope. So removing them can cause a lot of erosion issues. So there's a concern there.
Which I don't mind doing, slope mitigation.
Can you come to the
Will you
podium?
come and introduce
Identify
yourself and
yourself.
your address, please?
Yep, 4020 11th Street, Carrie Daly,
Thank you.
Chesapeake Beach.
Okay, so I can see where that's all happened. The one tree is down. The permit, is kind of, it's an after the fact, so that tree is down. The other two, I couldn't really tell from the pictures which,
Yeah,
were the pictures the two that are still remaining?
They're the two that are remaining.
Okay, and one is the very large tree behind what looks like a shed?
No, the big one is the one kind of in the middle of the lot.
It's got vines all over it?
Yeah, and
Okay.
it's the one that got hit about 15 years ago by lightning. I think it's about 15 years ago.
So is it cracked?
Yeah, it has it's covered with vines, but it has an area like from here all the way probably up the tree. And I don't know how far it goes in the tree that's dead. Yeah, that's hollow and dead. I know a lot of the poplars have that.
Are these two other poplars? Did we say that?
They're poplars, yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Area is the one that's down, the poplars are the one that exists.
Okay. I can see.
It's for us, and for my wife in particular, and we don't mind planning to mitigate whatever we need to, but I think it's a safety concern
Right.
for these trees,
Okay.
really falling on the house.
Okay. Yeah, my biggest concern is this. I can see taking them down, unless somebody objects to that. I don't know if removing the vines is going to do anything, but if it's hollow for a certain extent inside the tree, I don't think I think that's worthy of taking down. But my concern is that slope and what's going to happen with erosion with those trees gone. So Sarah's recommendation of leaving the stumps and the root system until new trees can be planted. And actually, to me, it really should be planting and getting established, not just planting the trees and taking the roots out. Because if we put in small trees, even 4 or 6 foot trees, it's going to take a while to stabilize that slope.
Well, one thing being on site, it's pretty aggressively vined up, and I think whatever you remove is gonna, even though we mentioned some of it's invasive English ivy and other things, the actual slope, even under that canopy, is completely covered in vines right now. It's kind of like the B Street slope. It'd probably be self-healing with whatever comes over it. But with that being said, whatever you do plant, you're gonna have to definitely protect it for a while or they'll just choke it out.
That slope does, the house above it, the grass there probably does some protection, but what happened, that was a piece of property that in 2013, and you might have known Mrs. McVeigh, Kathy, but they took that lot and subdivided into 4 separate lots. I think it's a little bit of a shame because from an impact as far as the community goes, I think that would have been nice to just keep it as one big lot, but in separated into 4 different lots, it almost in doing anything to the lot, it almost forces you to. I mean, I guess the other way you could go about, and it wouldn't be my intentions, and I have a similar situation that's going on with another lot behind my house, is that you could, the other thing you could do is you could go, it would probably cost you, and now in this day and age, probably $5,000, but you go get a grading permit and you just have the whole thing graded, which would be even, in my opinion, worse,
So the 4 properties, do they sit above you on the hill?
Yeah,
And
this is
is the problem that they graded that for these houses and now it's kind of open and that's why you have this open slope?
well,
Am
no,
I getting that right?
no, it's just that, the reason we wanted the trees down was for, because the one tree got hit by lightning and
Right.
it's in bad shape, and our house is
just west of these trees.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, we ended up buying the lot to have a buffer for our house. And so, and ending up with that lot, we ended up with these trees.
Okay.
And,
I get it.
and so, and I know you guys have had this tree ordinance for 2 years. You know, I've been here since 2001, but I had no idea there was a tree ordinance. So, I'm sure you've advertised, but I don't know that I'm not trying to be contrarian, but I don't know how many people know about that.
Yeah.
I know about it now, of course,
Right.
and would have taken measures differently, just like the gentleman that was in front of me before.
Okay.
But yeah, so you know, so now we're you know, in the town taking that piece of property and breaking it up into 4 different pieces of property. You know, you have, and I don't know, the gentleman that built the new house on B Street, for parking purposes, I think ended up buying one of the lots, and I think he ended up cutting down a tree and getting into some
So
hot water there.
what is the impact of that on your property? I mean,
The as far as the trees, or
you keep mentioning these 4 properties. Do they impact what you're doing with these trees or why they're coming down?
no, I just think that you know, no, it does not impact the trees as far as that goes.
All right.
But I'm sorry. But we have like Jay said, we have a real good the other lots have had grass and have been mowed forever.
Right.
But this particular lower lot has
Lines all
a
over.
very good
Okay.
ground cover.
Yeah.
And it would affect the property that I live in right now if it did not, because we would get erosion coming
Right.
into.
Okay.
So as far as trying to prevent erosion, I mean, you know, that's something being on 11th Street that I've been dealing with since we've lived here.
there.
So whether it's retaining walls or, you know, we've been dealing with erosion for, you know, I've been dealing with this erosion since 1999 when we bought the property.
So is your sense from looking at it that the vines themselves, I mean, the recommendation from Sarah was that these stumps and roots remain until the trees get established.
And
Is that?
I would agree with that. I mean, I think it wouldn't be good to the slope either way to try to, that stump is probably as big as your house, right? You would compromise the slope and just getting to it. So I think leaving it flush cut like you can, pick out where you're going to plant new and let the vines take over the stump. I believe it'll be fine. That would be the best approach, not to create more problems.
Right, absolutely. And we'd be fine with that.
Sarah's recommendation that we remove all invasive vines from the property, is that
If I could weigh
contradictory
in
to
on
that?
this, I think his property right now is very stable in the area that we're talking about.
Okay,
It's deeply overgrown with all kinds, it's not just kudzu, it's all kinds of deeper rooted stuff.
okay,
I have a really hard time believing that it's going to move in any way, shape, or form with or without those trees,
okay,
frankly. I think it's smart, proactive to replace trees when others are taken down in accordance with our, you know, mandate.
right,
But those trees themselves, I don't think are anchoring that property.
okay,
I think that
Right.
property is anchored fairly nicely as is. So what Jay just said about getting in there and, you know, doing a lot of mucking around, I think is going to do more to disturb the soil zone than anything. So I
Right.
think Dr. Gailey should probably do the minimal in terms of establishing that those trees are not savable and that he doesn't want to keep them. And then doing the minimal to disturb that property, because right now I think it's fundamentally stable. Maybe Gordon could weigh in on that also, knowing something
No, I
about it.
agree with what you're saying. I mean, it's got a good ground cover on it and it should resist
It's-
erosion pretty well.
It's not going to
Yeah.
start moving
No.
once that tree, or even when those roots decay. I just don't believe it. There's not a lot of slope
The
there.
decay of the roots is going to take years.
Yeah.
It could
Right.
be
Okay.
10 years.
So I think my
The-
bigger question maybe is if one of these, Dr. Daly, is hit by a lightning,
That's correct. Yeah.
so that one you're convinced is like beyond saving.
I don't know if you got it. Did you have a chance to look at that one, Jay, or?
Yeah, I looked at them. I mean, so after being on site and I've always shared with this board and the other public and looking at the size of these trees that are within proximity of your house, I'm very hesitant to tell a homeowner, you can't cut down that tree. I just wouldn't do that, right? So for me, it's more about how do we mitigate, how do we get it replaced? So the question of should it come down or not? If I lived there, I'd be taking that tree down too, and that's just fair and honest. The other one behind the shed's kind of leaning, encroaching, and I agree with that one too. It's within the parameters of where I spent some time there, where your kids play, where your garden is, and everything else. I mean, it's the fact that they're at risk, one is showing damage. I have no problem with you removing them as a homeowner. It's how do we mitigate and where would be the best place to put them back?
I,
I'm sorry.
I just want to comment that I think that the tree should be removed. I came upon the trees being removed, the one tree, when the tree company was removing it. But the area it does have the English ivy all over, and that's probably holding that hill together. You know, from one who has the English ivy on the hillside, yeah, that, you know, and the kudzu, it's holding, the English ivy for sure is holding it together. My only thought, I certainly agree that the other two trees should be removed. And my only comment is that, I think, and I don't mean to speak for the the planning administrator, but I think it's important when she says removal of the invasive vines from the other trees. I think that's just to protect the other trees, so that in this instance where you've got that one tree heavily infiltrated with the vines, I think it damages the tree and ultimately will kill the tree. So I think you can remove those other trees, but I think just in protecting and caring for the other trees, the vines should be removed from them if they
From the
are there.
trees, but not from the entire property.
No, not from,
Yeah,
yeah, I
okay.
think her intent is that the vines don't
From the
damage the
trees.
trees, but the vines remain and the stumps remain, so those roots are entrenched. But I think it's the removal of the invasive vines to protect the other trees already on the property
Right.
is what I read this as.
I think we've all seen a gradient of encrustation by the English ivy. It'll get to a point where I think it's self-sustaining. I don't even think, would be an interesting experiment to disconnect it from the soil zone and see if any of the stuff starts to wilt. I actually think in some of the cases, at least one of these, the second picture you have, I think it's going to just continue to derive its nutrient off the tree and not necessarily the soil. So I don't think you're going to save it.
So I tried one tree. I've been working on the vines. There's trees all
Sure.
behind, and it's been 2 years and they're still green.
Yeah.
And I've taken the
know.
vines
That's what
all
I'm
the way
saying.
around. Crazy.
I have a close colleague who does invasive vine removal, and he said, Ken, you know, after a certain point, it doesn't matter if you disconnect the root from the soil. They're just parasitic organisms that are going to live off that tree until it's decayed away to nothing.
Yeah, I know Melanie Crowder, who is our master gardener, who's usually on the board, but not here tonight. She always recommends cutting in two different places, not just around the bottom, but going up about 6 feet and cutting again.
Well,
And I
my,
don't know if that makes a difference.
That's
or
about
not, but-
climb. And
Yeah,
I'm talking about something that's much more like autonomous, that
Yeah.
doesn't need a soil zone anymore. You know, and if we prevent them from getting to that point, we can save a lot of the trees in our neighborhood because we live in the same neighborhood.
Right.
And I know the ones that I look at in the backyard, it's like, man, if they don't get on that, it's going to be lost. And I happen to think that Dr. Gailey's trees are lost. Like they look beyond hope.
Okay.
So I'm not in this dispute about that. I just think that there are other trees on our general property in that area that can be prevented from reaching this hopeless situation.
well, I have one of the two huge tulip poplars in my backyard, and one was all encrusted with the vines. And I cut it halfway. I also fell off the ladder, which was fun. But I cut it all the way around the circumference of the tree. But I have to say, almost 4 years later, it took 2 years to die, and then the vines just hung on the tree, but eventually they died as well, and then just fell off. But it's
Bill.
This is where an arborist is gonna determination whether it's
What to
beyond
do.
hope or not,
Yeah.
you know.
but I would recommend
Okay.
those two
All right,
trees.
so our recommendation is to approve the permit to remove the trees, remove all invasive vines from other trees on the property, leave the stumps. Is that what we're agreeing
Yeah.
on? Because that, they'll just get overgrown. And replacing one for one, the trees that you take out with an appropriate tree in appropriate location on your property. And again, one large, three small,
Sure.
whatever you choose to do. I also would recommend, because the permit was not filed, we have to be consistent, and there'd be a $300 fine for removing a tree without a permit.
Yeah, I think we have to clarify that, because I think Dr. Gailey already paid the $300 fine because he immediately responded to the town.
We've got to
But, yeah.
clarify the
yeah.
distinction between the permit fee itself and the
And the
fine
fine.
we're giving for not complying with the ordinance. So we've got to clarify that. Again, 6 months for the new trees, or we will fine you $1,000 for the tree that came down.
I make that motion.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
This is approved. I'll write up a report, get it to Sharon. They'll get you a formal letter. But you
Okay.
can see
All
that
right.
this is probably, I don't know of any circumstance where the town changes our recommendation, but you might want to wait until the formal letter comes out. So
Well, wait, that's no problem. And,
hopefully it's within a matter of days. So-
that's fine. No problem. Yep.
If
Okay.
if I can just say something as an addendum to this, the last two applicants have been cases where there's no ill intent to not follow the law and simply are unaware. So it continues to be an issue for me that people are just not hearing it. And I know it's not like something that we haven't tried, but
Yeah,
it seems like
we-
it's still a problem.
It is a problem. We have been talking about it with Samelia. The green team is coming up with a mailer postcard rather than just,
Good.
right now the town is announcing it through the town e-blast, but not everybody gets the e-blast, and not everybody, you get one a week. You don't always read every single one. So we are going to design a postcard that can be mailed to every single homeowner in town and do that way. I know Martha, have you seen Martha's flow chart that she created? We've been trying to post that in various different areas and through
excellent.
different formats that says, do you need a permit? Do you not? Are you taking out one tree? Then do this, do that. It's a really cool flow chart. So we are working on trying to come up with ways to get everybody on board with this and in knowledge of this ordinance.
And additionally, I spoke with the town administrator about the matter of, there used to be a town newsletter that
Right.
went out, and that has stopped. But there was discussion about resurfacing that, and that would also help to address, as it goes out, I think probably on a quarterly basis, but it would also help address the fact that those town residents who do not get the notification through email, they would get an actual hard copy newsletter that would also, along with the mailer.
I think that's the hangup. We've been relying on this town e-blast, and just not everybody gets it.
I think the newsletter, we always read the newsletter
Sure.
when it comes out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we did.
For several years,
Yeah.
It,
So
inexplicably.
we are trying to get more exposure to this, because we know, and they have said that there are other permits in town, other construction permits. It's the same thing. People don't know about them.
Is there
So we gotta
something-
get some
is there
word
something
out.
that goes out to every homeowner, like a water bill, that could have an extra insert put into it?
That's a good idea.
Doesn't reach every homeowner.
Oh,
Really?
There's a lot of homeowners in town, especially south side, Old Bay side, that are not on. But I think the newsletter solves it. And I did talk to Samelia, that's coming back, so that'll be a good start.
But
Nothing's like it used to be, right? I don't care where.
Yeah.
This is a different town 20 years ago.
Okay, I'm just making some notes here, folks. Thank you. You can leave if you'd like to.
No problem. Thank
We're
you,
done.
guys.
Thank you for
All
coming
right.
in and
Yes.
cooperating.
Take care.
Okay, sounds good. We'll see you guys. See you guys.
Yeah, I gotta get with. Okay, the only other thing I would like to mention is Melanie came up with copies of tree ordinances from Anne Arundel County and I think St. Mary's County, at least one other county. And I would like to send them out to you guys. I don't know that they're really deep or extensive. It's not, I don't know, at one point I sent out some kind of 180-page thing that everybody, including myself, never read. But what I would like to do is read what other people's
Sure.
ordinances say and see if there's ways we can kind of clarify, make our ordinance better, cleaner, more concise. I think there still are some gray areas that come up in these
We mulled
discussions.
ours over.
We did, but we're looking at a couple others. I know when we talked to the town, Newtown landscaper Bartlett, they said I believe they do a lot of work in Anne Arundel County, and they said that they have different requirements in their ordinance that we might want to consider for our town to kind of clarify some of the gray areas that we keep happening. So I'm going to send that out. If we can talk about it in our next meeting in August, that would be great. If anybody has any thoughts or recommendations, like I think this would be a good addition. We have to come to agreement. We have to send it to the town council. They have to throw it around, decide if they're going to amend. So it's a long process, but I would like to get started on that. So you'll be seeing something
Would the
from me. at some
lawyer, the
point.
town lawyer, look at these to try to
Yeah.
communicate whether or not they are the most efficient way to communicate possible?
Right, yeah.
Yeah, but from the most part, I think right now it's just lack of knowledge that such an ordinance exists.
Even exists,
Yeah.
yeah.
Not so much following the details.
Right. So. All right. I call for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned.
So when's the next meeting?
August 5th.
Right now, nothing's on that, right?
Not right now.
Oh, no.
Hang on, I hear a chainsaw.
Yeah, right.
But I will walk my dog tomorrow. We'll see.
I'm not sure I'm here on August 6th. Let me look real quick.
Melanie will be back, so.
The next meeting, you said August 6th?